Hey, what's up guys? It's Texumer talking to you here, and today I want to talk about the Mac line and how it's going to be at the end of this Apple transition from Intel to Apple Silicon. And I think that's important to talk about because I think that right now we have a distorted view about how it's going to look and how it's going to perform and how many models of computers will be left and who's going to be killed and who's going to be saved. But before I go deep into this matter, roll the intro. So, Apple Silicon is quite a bit of a revolution. I think right now we are evolving into a new lineup. Apple is trying to create something more appealing to the mass market, so they can win even more market share from Windows PCs manufacturers and break even from this idea that Apple doesn't know how to make mass market computers. So Macs right now are just for niches, and I think people that have that misconcept in mind. So I think Apple is trying to break that with amazing computers. They started that with last year's M1 MacBook Air and Mac Mini, with an M1 MacBook Pro trying to satisfy Pro consumers. But this M1 Mac Mini and M1 MacBook Pro were the first step for Apple to win new customers to Mac OS. So I think that right now they will start the second phase of their master plan, which is try to renovate their lineup, trying to create even more computers and try to create an even more competitive lineup. Which, if you think about it, on the time of Steve Jobs' era on Apple, Apple used to dominate the mass market computer on USA. They were quite a bit bigger than they are right now. So I think that by they creating this new MacBook Air that John Prosser leaked, which in my opinion is not MacBook Air, or this new M1X hype, or even the Mac Pro or the new iMac for the consumers, the M1 iMac, I think they're trying to win even more customers, and they started that by creating the M1 MacBook Air and the M1 Mac Mini. But the thing is, I think that the first computer to stay and to be announced on this new Mac line and evolved Mac line is the M1 MacBook Air. I think this computer will stay at that sweet spot of $1,000. This computer will keep on going for at least 2 or 3 more years. I think this will be the entry line computer from Apple, and it won't change for a long time. So the M1 MacBook Air would be the front line laptop. Then the M1 Mac Mini would be the bare minimum to buy a Mac, which is $700 or $800. So keep in mind, MacBook Air, which has the M1. As you know, the MacBook Air hasn't been updated a lot in terms of design. But John Prosser is telling us that we should get a MacBook Air in 2022. And this seems a bit of strange, because even Min Chi Kuo is saying that. So, well, we should agree with them, because we should expect a new MacBook Air, at least on 2022. But, in my opinion, I think that this MacBook Air that they are trying to understand what it is not a MacBook Air. It's a different computer. It's a new model that, in my opinion, will replace the M1 MacBook Pro. This computer should be at $1,300, try to replace that sweet spot between the M1X MacBook Pro 14-inch and the M1 MacBook Air. So this new computer, according to Luke Miani, which is quite a good analyst and I trust him, and I think I agree with him, this should be like a MacBook type computer where you should have a new design, less ports, even lighter than the M1 MacBook Air, and you should have the M2 chip. And this will be very powerful, very able for students that want a bit more, a new design, new colors, but they don't advise themselves being a pro, and so they don't buy pro machines. And I think this would be very, very interesting for the people that don't want the boring M1 MacBook Air and want a more colorful and more powerful computer like the MacBook. Let's call it the MacBook. And I think it's a very interesting computer, and I'm very excited to see that, and we should expect the computer to come by mid-2022, according to Min Chi Kuo, which is a quite reliable leaker, and it has got wrong things on the past, but I trust him a lot. Then we should see Apple kill the 13-inch Intel MacBook Pro and 16-inch Intel MacBook Pro. These two computers will be removed from the lineup, and we should see 2 new beasts. These new beasts are the overhyped M1X MacBook Pros. These should be the best MacBook Pros ever, the unicorn MacBook Pros, which have mini LED, M1X chip, new design, more ports, older ports, bigger, better trackpads, keyboards, backlights, everything you want to have on the MacBook Pro, we should expect on this mini LED, which is just incredible. And better webcams too. And I think that these new MacBook Pros will hit the market differently. I think they will be very, very popular for everyone who wants a bit more powerful computer, which will see this new, at least the 14-inch MacBook Pro, a gigantic value, because it will destroy $4,000, $5,000, $6,000 computers and even desktops. And I think this will be the best-selling MacBook from Apple, and I think the 14-inch will sell like hotcakes. But the 16-inch will be very, very cool too, and it's my favorite computer. And I think that it will sell very, very well with an upcoming M1X chip, which will be very, very powerful, more powerful than a 9 from the 16-inch, with a great GPU power, which can play games. It will be able to play a lot of games if they support Apple Silicon, but if they do, to be able to play all of them, to be able to do all of your professional work. It will like cut through smooth 4K, 8K footage like butter, and I think it will be very, very powerful and very, very interesting to see these new MacBook Pros get on the line and win some market share for Apple. And I think that's their plan, to overhype these computers, which will be very, very incredible with new design and screens and processors, and it will be very cool to see. Then the iMac line. It's pretty simple to know what the iMac line will look like by the end of this transition. If you think about it, Apple has only 2 models on the iMac line right now because they killed the iMac Pro. But that, I think it will come back in a different type of form factor. But the iMac line will start the M1 iMac for at least 1 more year, or at least when Apple releases the M2. This M1 or M2 iMac will be an incredible computer to entry line for an Apple desktop. It will be the Apple desktop for everything, for coffee shops, for people that want to have it on the front store. It's beautiful to look at from behind. It's beautiful to look at from the front, in my opinion, and it's beautiful to work on. Very powerful, very light, very easy to move around, and I think it's pretty cool. Then we should expect the bigger iMac, the 27-inch or the 30-inch, which we'll see. It will be a 27-inch iMac replacement, and this new iMac will feature probably the M1X or the 2 M1Xs like we are expecting, like 2 big M1Xs attached together. This new computer will feature such power that will not be rivaled by any desktop or Windows desktop, around $8,000 to $9,000. It will have very powerful GPU, very powerful CPU power, and it will have, I think in my opinion, should have a different design from the M1. But if it doesn't, then we should expect a new computer on this lineup. We should expect the comeback of the iMac Pro with a Pro Display XDR-like design and everything you want to, like better speakers, better I/O, better ports, like, because the 30-inch iMac, we should not expect to have more ports than the M1 iMac. So if we don't have that, then if the M1 or the M1X iMac 30-inch, it's not like a prosumer computer, it's more like a Pro, but not with the full I/O, like having the same design as the M1 iMac, then we should expect to come back from the M1X iMac Pro or a different type of processor. This iMac Pro should have a different design, better speakers, Pro Display XDR design, better display, mini LED displays probably, and should be like the computer of your dreams, like a Mac Pro with a screen. And I think it will be a very, very niche product and very expensive one too. Expect like more than $6,000 because the Pro Display XDR features are included and the Pro Display XDR costs $6,000. Speaking of the Pro Display XDR, there are rumors that it's going to be updated with the new A13, which would be incredible and weird at the same time, but this new display will be able to help the computer with tasks, and that would be interesting to see, but I don't think it will come out right now because Apple is still on prototype, and I think it won't be at least coming out on the next 2 or 1.5 years. But the last computer to be updated and to revolutionize this lineup is the Mac Pro. I think Apple will divide the Mac Pro lineup in 2. I think they will have an Intel Mac Pro, which is the same right now with updated components, and we will have a Apple Silicon Mac Pro. This Apple Silicon Mac Pro will be even smaller than the older Mac Pro, but it will feature a lot of things. These things will be very important to differentiate from the Intel Mac Pro. It will be smaller, it will have a smaller heatsink, but it will feature more cores than every other Apple Silicon computer. It will feature more GPU cores. It will feature everything called at least at power. It will be almost like infinite power from Apple Silicon. And I'm very interested to see that. Expect this Mac Pro to cost a little bit less than the current Mac Pro. At least $3,000 to $4,000. This new Mac Pro will be the most powerful computer from the Apple lineup. It will be the most pro computer from Apple, and I think it will sell from a niche market. It will probably be produced on the US, and it will sell around $3,000 to $4,000 start point, and it will have upgrades that you can buy from Apple, like more M1X chips, more RAM, and I think that Apple will make the RAM upgradable in a very different way, and you could add more GPUs, probably by adding more M1Xs. I think this modularity will be very interesting to see how you can add up to this new modular Mac Pro, which will probably be released on WWDC in 2022, and it will accompany this new Apple display, cheaper Apple display that I think Apple is making around $3,000 to $4,000, a little bit cheaper than the Pro Display XDR. So you can buy this cheaper Mac Pro and cheaper display, or you can buy the most expensive from computer form of Apple, which is the Intel Mac Pro, with the most expensive display, which is the Pro Display XDR. And I think that's it for the Apple's lineup, Apple Silicon lineup that we will see around June 2022, because this new lineup will attack the market in a way that will try to win more market share for Apple, trying to make it even better when compared to the Windows manufacturers, because I think Windows manufacturers are behind in terms of CPU technology, and I think Apple knows that, so it's trying to win more people and more customers to macOS, try to make them stick with Apple so they can create another big market to win them more money. But that's my opinion on the new Apple Silicon lineup. The revolution that will happen until June will be huge, and we should see now an acceleration of killing old machines and bringing new machines on. So this is my opinion and my thoughts on this new Apple Silicon lineup, and what are yours? Let me know in the comments down below. I'm really interested on this topic, and don't forget to leave a like on this video. Don't forget to follow me on Twitter too and Instagram, and don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell. This was Tech Sumer talking to you here. Bye.